Indiana Jones, It's a podcast about Indiana Jones. Every movie, 1 minute at a time. Indiana Jones Minute.
Welcome back to the Indiana Jones Minute. This is the podcast where we discuss Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, one surprising gender reveal party at a time. I'm Pete Mullert.
I'm Tom Taylor.
I'm Gerald Christopher Reconsidering Porter.
And today we're joined by one of my favorite guests, the master of the filmumentary. His filmumentary for Raiders was amazing. His filmumentary for Jaws was absolutely sublime. I just wish he had one for Last Crusade to make my job a little bit easier. But Jamie Binning, welcome back to the show.
Thanks. I wish I had one as well to make my job a little bit easier. No, it's good to be back.
Yeah, we're thrilled to have you. And today we're going to be talking about minute 26. Minute 26 begins with Indy intently reading his dad's diary, and it ends with Indy telling a woman he just met which parts of his anatomy she is welcome to.
Now we see Indy, we see the classic plane flight map here that we all love. Now, when the plane makes like a little right turn or a left turn, do they actually stop in that city?
I'm assuming they're refueling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm assuming they're refueling too, right?
Yeah.
So if there's when it's not just a turn, because they seem to make the turns always on land.
Yeah, no, I think it's a refueling stop because planes
yeah.
at that time couldn't cross the Atlantic.
Well, I
have a question.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't mean to interrupt, but in Raiders, didn't they, every turn, didn't it have like a little dot?
Yeah.
Or was it only the destination at the end?
No, it might have had a little dot.
I think you might
Yeah.
be right, actually, yeah.
Yeah.
It did have a little dot, and I think that little dot means refueling.
Maybe, but these don't have those dots.
I know, the whole
They
movie's
forgot the
different.
dots.
It sucks. It's not Raiders, all right?
It's not Raiders. It doesn't have dots.
This is
doesn't
more
have
of a
dots.
this is more of a sleek Art Deco line. They don't need the dots.
Well, actually,
That's
there was an extra bit of the scene here as well. They did actually shoot Indy and Marcus on the plane, full frame. There are a couple of stills still around somewhere in one of the old storybooks. So maybe the map bit was a little bit of an afterthought in the editing process. So maybe that explains the lack of dots. They were not on the case.
Interesting.
Well, I love that they stop in St. John's, Newfoundland, because it's just nice. They're consistent
Newfoundland.
with Newfoundland.
I was going to say,
Sounds like
we've
understand,
been taught
right?
over and over again.
Yes.
Yeah.
Newfoundland.
Sorry, Andrew.
Yeah.
The jackals are back.
Right.
I like that they're Newfoundland, and but it's nice. St. John's, they kind of they're consistent with the whole Christianity thing.
Yeah.
And he's really perusing his dad's diary intently here. And we see a couple things. One, we see a crude copy of that painting in his living room with Joseph of Arimathea collecting the blood that's just spewing out of Christ's side.
Yeah.
But the notes here kind of make me think that Henry might not be quite the scholar he's made out to be, because he says that this painting is Flemish from the 12th century, which is probably unlikely.
It's pronounced Flemish.
Yeah. But Flemish painting didn't really become known until the 15th century, and stuff before then would have been on frescoes, and most of that was lost either to damp weather or because of the iconoclastic controversies that got painted over. So I think maybe, and we'll see that in the next few minutes, that maybe Henry Sr. is also sort of has a propensity to just making stuff up.
Do you think that when these kind of mistakes come in, or like, inaccuracies, that it's like, especially with a movie like this, where like they're taking a stab at being accurate, but they're not quite making it? Do you think it's the prop master, like in this case, somebody made this diary and like, okay, I got to study up on this thing so I can have some accurate notes? Or is it like, who cares? I'm just going to put in some buzzwords. Oh, Flemish is a kind of thing, and this is a period from history, and this is these are buzzwords that would be in a diary like this. So I'll just toss those in.
Well, yeah.
Or do you think they took an actual stab at?
Yeah, I think it'd be the
accurate?
latter, wouldn't it? It's like, they're kind of closing their eyes and just pointing at something.
Yeah.
Right.
In the general arena, yeah.
And they're thinking, well, this is going to be on screen for, sort of half visible for a second and a half. No one's going to really pay any attention to this.
Yeah.
Right. no one's going to pause it on their VCR and
In 1989,
Clear
are you
view.
kidding? It's still rolling then, right?
right.
But then the next page he turns to, we get a copy of the thing he was copying when River Phoenix ran into the room, of that stained glass thing. And then the Grail diary flat out says that this is a stained glass window in Venice. And Henry Sr. was copying this in 1912. So my question is, what has he been doing for the last 26 years? Like, why didn't
he hightail it to
why didn't he
Venice?
just go to Venice in 1912 and it's right there?
Well, I
Everything
think
he needs is right there.
He had to like complete the shading.
Like the cross hatching or the stippling or
Yeah, he's like, I know where it is, but I need to. This just isn't right. I need to.
Well, Indy says when he finds his dad missing in the last minute, he says that, or last couple of minutes, he says, Dad's a bookworm. He's not a field man. Like maybe Henry almost had no intention of like actually going out into the world and tracking stuff down. He was just studying it and sort of like a hobbyist nerd about it.
He was waiting for the refueling stops to appear.
yeah.
Yeah, right. He can't go in one flight just straight to Venice. But I'm not going to get on a boat. And so he's waiting for like a Donovan kind of guy to like, be a catalyst for getting him over there and like, oh, all right, I can actually go find this stained glass window that I drew in my book. All right, awesome.
Are you saying that people who are obsessive about things keep a certain distance? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, they're super weird, unpersonable, just absolutely strange. And I don't want to have anything to do with any of them. I can't relate to them.
But see, I think this is funny because we get this Grail diary and it sets up like a really big puzzle. And we think, well, this is going to be a really intricate treasure hunt and all these clues, we have to follow all these clues and everything's going to be this wonderful, intricate puzzle. And basically all it boils down to is he had to go to Venice and look for an X. And everything,
Right.
if he finds the X, he finds the Grail. Like that's literally the puzzle.
Which is a good punchline when it comes up. But yeah, we'll talk about that more, about these quote unquote clues as they go. But
Yeah.
that's a good point.
Yeah, they're pretty strange clues. Like they aren't really clues.
Right, yeah. They're
just-
they're labeled clues, but that doesn't mean they're clues.
Yeah, every page he could have just drawn a big X and that would have been a clue.
Yeah. Look for the X, dummy. X marks the spot. No matter what you tell your students.
Hey, can we play a game called Tetramorph?
Yeah.
Because we have another one here.
Oh, right.
Yeah, right. Like a big fun one. That one looks furry and like a lot of fun to draw, which means that's got to be the lion, which is
Hop on my back. We'll have adventures.
exactly.
We'll find the Grail.
That's I looked this up. So Mark is the wing lion. St. Mark's the wing lion. Luke is the winged ox. Matthew is a winged man, which is kind of weird because that's not nearly as cool as a winged. Like,
Just a regular angel. That's
Yeah,
not so
yeah,
cool.
exactly. And then here's a weird one.
Like a Bytor or something.
Like Saint John is an eagle, and you're like,
Wow.
well, dude, that's already winged.
Yeah,
So
he's a
that's-
winged eagle.
Yeah,
a winged
he's
eagle.
just
Maybe
an
maybe
eagle.
the eagle didn't used to be winged. He became winged with St. John.
But then it would be like one of those weird birds. What's that one John Brugan has at a zoo? The cassowary. Cassowary.
Oh,
is
the
that it?
cassowary? Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't fly. You're like, that would be fine if it was a winged cassowary or whatever.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
fine. But anyway, I also noticed, and did you see this? Because I know you studied. You studied Henry Jones' Grail diary, Pete. There's a triple X. He writes triple X.
I didn't notice
in
the triple
yeah, and
X.
I'm
Yeah.
exactly. There's like one of his
That kind of
notes
diary.
is it's
Dear
just a
Penthouse
triple X.
Forum, I never thought this would happen to me on my trip to Venice, but I thought I'd share it with your readers.
I ran into a Knights Templar, and oh boy, yeah. Well, I did think maybe that's a little bit of what we might see in the upcoming minutes, foreshadowing, tale before Grail.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Randy Henry.
Yep.
Yeah. Hey, is this the first, this just occurred to me, is this the first time during a travel map that we get, other than just like, shots of the plane flying and stuff, we're getting like images of what Indy's doing on the flight?
I think it is, and that's quite a nice shot,
Yeah.
actually, isn't it? With the reflection in his eyes, and you
Yeah.
can see the stuff going
Yeah.
through. Yeah,
Well, he's
That's cool.
normally snoozing.
Yeah, that's true.
He actually is always
That's-
asleep,
yeah.
isn't he?
Yeah.
That's funny.
Well, do you
With
know
that
what
over
was
his eyes.
Jamie? You mentioned the deleted scene, and I didn't actually track that down. Do you know what was being said between Marcus and Indy in that? Or
no, I don't know if there was much in terms of dialogue. All I could find was one of the original shooting scripts, but all it said was kind of what we see anyway. But that he tends to go. I think he goes through the book a little bit more, and there's more full frame shots rather than just the sort of superimposed face shots and hands.
Okay.
But they built a proper set for it and everything, which I always think must be a really difficult thing to do, to cut a scene out when you've known you've had to build a set and have art directors look at it and sort it all out and do the whole day, and then we've got to lose it. Damn.
You almost never hear directors address that, like in behind the scenes stuff or anything. They never say like, "Oh my gosh, I cannot believe so many people spent so much time and energy on this thing that's not in the movie anymore."
Yeah.
I heard Joe Dante mention that once in an interview. Like, "Oh my God, it just kills you. It kills you when you have to cut out something that so many people put so much time into and so much money, and then it's just not even in the movie."
I remember George Lucas talking about it in Return of the Jedi, saying about Jabba's sail barge, how it took months to build, but people in science fiction movies tend to linger on sets because, wow, look at this amazing thing I've built, I better show it off. When in fact, I think that scene lasts like 6 minutes or something.
Right, yeah.
And I always feel bad for like people who are like they get their big acting break and they're like, I'm going to be in the new Star Wars movie. I'm going to be in Jaws, and then their scene gets cut and it's like, oop.
Yeah.
The Biggs effect.
Indeed.
Cammy.
Biggs effect.
Well, Cammy, yeah.
What do you think when they stop off at Lisbon, Indy's tempted to jump off the plane and run over to Marrakesh for a quick shopping trip?
I got to see a guy. Hang on.
Well, I actually was in Marrakesh last week and I flew back via Lisbon. Yeah, genuinely.
Oh, nice.
Wow.
What'd you
So
buy?
I flew straight.
Yeah.
Some
sell.
antiquities, of course. No, I flew from London.
fertility idols?
No, I couldn't see any actually. There just seemed to be a lot of things that looked amazing and old, and then I looked around the corner, and the same looking amazing old things were there. They've clearly got a very nice mould that reproduces these things.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, I flew straight in from London, and then coming back I had to go via Lisbon, and it wasn't until today that when I was looking at the map on the film here that I was like, oh yeah, that was me just a few days ago. See, we can do that in Europe, just hop over to Marrakesh.
Yeah, really.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
We should hop over to Utah.
Yeah.
Well, do whatever hopping we can over here.
So yeah, then we get Indy and Marcus land, and the next thing we see them walking off of a Vaporetto in Venice, which is cool because these water buses look exactly the same today.
Oh, nice.
And they're kind of across the water from St. Mark's Square, which there's no longer a Vaporetto stop here. But there's a famous scene when they're filming in Raiders, when they were filming that scene in Cairo, where they made everybody take down their TV antennas. And they only had access to the Grand Canal here in Venice for like 6 hours.
Yeah.
And they weren't able to do that. So if you look, you can see lots of TV antennas.
Oh, really?
Well, Dougie Slocum
Lazy
said
bums.
to Robert Watts, "Don't worry, you're not going to see them." Presumably, he was gonna, put a gauze on the camera or something to soften it or something. But you can see a few. There are apparently even satellite dishes then as well.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, but you're right though. They had from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. To shoot all this stuff here. Just one,
like all the stuff on the canal, you mean?
Yeah, one morning of
Wow.
one day.
On the Grand Canal, like in the big part. Yeah.
Yeah, this bit here. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, we see a bunch of Belloq doppelgangers.
Oh, you owe me $1. I knew you were going to say that there was a bunch of Belloqs. That's awesome.
Yeah, deboard the boat, and I'm wondering, does that indicate that there's a lot of archaeologists from around the world that are descending upon Venice for this Holy Grail thing? It's a little bit like everybody coming to Tanis to,
Yeah. That's awesome.
Well,
it's like all of Belloq's white-clad cousins and brothers.
Yep,
and,
yep.
But I love
got the
that
family label.
Indy and Marcus Indy's done a total indie move again, and they hired a kid to carry their baggage.
I think that's
wow.
that's Roscoe's younger brother. If you look at him,
It sucks though. Like it's the same bag that Shorty had to heave around in Temple of Doom, and Indy just apparently just whenever he finds a kid, he's like, "Hey kid, here's 10 cents. Carry my bag."
You got arms.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was complaining about, well, not complaining exactly, but I was noticing that Indy is not wearing his normal travel hat from Raiders, like his gray.
His nice-
it's not
his
the
nice
fedora.
hat.
It's just like his nice travel hat that he wears with his suit. Like he's got, it looks like this is the Indiana Jones hat. And He looks great. He looks great. He's got a tie, he's got a suit, and he's got the hat. That looks really good. But it does bug me a little bit that they won't let go of the hat.
Uh-huh.
And that, like, even in the ads, like, the man with the hat is back. Like, he's not the man with the hat. He's Indiana Jones. He's not just the hat.
The hat doesn't do anything.
Don't make him just the hat. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. He also wears a few different hats.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Wait, what do you mean?
Well, I mean, like the man with the hat. And you're like, no, he has the famous hat. We all know that. But I mean, it would almost be like the man with the bullwhip is back. I mean, that might, I don't know.
Yeah, but loads of people have bullwhips. Hardly anybody has a hat, you know.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, especially in that time.
The man with the scar on his chin.
Yeah, I think that's what bugs me. It's like, we've just distilled Indiana Jones down to these few things that fit into an afternoon when he was River Phoenix. Yeah. And, that's who Indiana Jones. I'm like, no, it's not Indiana Jones.
Right.
Indiana Jones has done plenty of cool stuff without a hat.
Exactly. Hey, do you guys remember the boat Coronado?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think it's been dredged up and recommissioned as this boat that's pulling up.
Really?
Well, if you look at the lifesavers, they're from the Coronado.
What do you mean?
Like on the boat, the white with the red, it's like the exact same lifesaver that Indy catches when the Coronado sinks.
But isn't that kind of... Well, we should point out that on our Patreon show, Jer just learned why Lifesavers, the candy, is called Lifesavers. So I don't know if we should be taking too much stock in what he's saying about these Lifesavers.
It's like the exact same lifesaver, You look at it, you're like, I've seen that before. Kind of like when Indy says, like, I've seen this before.
Yeah, but isn't it like the same Lifesaver on, like, Amity Beach or whatever? Like, it's a standard kind of thing, isn't it?
It's an international standard, yeah.
What it's like the man with the lifesaver.
Yeah, right. The man who rides a boat is back.
Exactly.
The man who puts safety first.
I'm just saying, the Coronado was a nice ship.
It was.
Yeah.
They may have been able to salvage something.
Yeah. But it would be unlike Indy to give back. Like if he did salvage that life ring, it's unlikely that he would have given it away. Yeah. What do you think? So they get off the boat and Indy's like, Venice. Mm-hmm. And Marcus kind of looks around kind of perfunctorily and he's kind of like, uh-huh. And then he immediately changes the subject. And I'm wondering, does this prove, like, Jerry, you were really upset a couple minutes ago.
I still am really upset.
But does this mean, does Marcus's sort of disinterest in the sights of Venice mean that he's been here lots of times before? Like maybe this is just like, oh yeah, of course, I've seen this 100 times.
I think he's still like super focused on just staying on task and like, okay, we got to meet this guy, this Dr. Schneider, where is he and where are we staying and where's my next meal coming from and where's the gift shop and...
Look, I think we got strong gusts and sheets of rain on the Doppler radar forecast for Marcus
I
Watch.
disagree, but keep talking.
I don't. I mean, what they're setting up here is, yes, he's interested in Indy's dad, and who's gone missing, and apparently he's the only one. But what I don't like is they're setting us up for this guy, Marcus Brody, and how excited I was that we're going to now see him in action, and they're setting us up for this thing like, maybe I shouldn't have brought this guy along.
Why? I mean, he's on task. I don't know what. Like, there's nothing. It's not like he's like, oh, we're in Venice. He's kind of like, oh, what?
He does take a little moment there as he puts his hands behind his back.
Yeah.
He kind of looks around and thinks, oh yeah, I should be taking this in. But he's the bumbling Englishman. Hang on a minute. Is that why you got me on this show?
We're hoping it'd be much more subtle than that. I'm sorry.
Well, that's the whole. It's like. Yeah, I would agree. You'd be like, oh no, he's on task, which is great, and that would be but that they don't portray him as that. They show Indy as going, Venice, and so he's and the sun is shining, and Marcus just he can't, it's like he can't get out of this. He has an anxiety disorder. He makes Pete Mummert look like he's going Venice. You know what I mean? He makes you look relaxed and chill, Pete.
I disagree. I think this is very standard. Like there's nothing bumbling about this, or like weird or overly worried. He's just kind of like, oh, how are we supposed to meet this guy?
There's nothing bumbling about it yet.
I agree with Tom here.
But in the next, literally at the end of this minute. we see that they're laying breadcrumbs down to say, yeah, we have to bring Marcus, I guess.
We'll see.
It's at the end of this minute.
I for my Marcus watch, I just have the word solid. He's good. He's totally good. Jamie, we're keeping an eye on Marcus because we're, people immediately say, oh, what they did to Marcus in this movie. But I'm finding that he's more solid than you remember, so we're keeping a close eye.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm on Team Marcus so far too.
Yeah. Guy's awesome. I have a note here that just says, duty! Because I meet Elsa Schneider.
Yeah.
Is it Schneider? It's Schneider, isn't it?
Schneider.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
And again, we get this very short little moment of surprise, like, oh, Dr. Schneider must be a man. And then 2 seconds later, it's Elsa.
Yeah. In this post All in the Family world, we've discovered that even women can be doctors.
Incredible.
Hey, Jerry, does anybody ever discuss Dr. Porter and think Dr. Porter might be referring to you?
Oh.
No.
See, I think we've reached the opposite situation in this case.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No one ever thinks I'm Dr. Porter.
It occurred to me today that Alison Doody has been in films with 3 Bonds. So she's in Connery with in Last Crusade. She was Jenny Flex in View to a Kill, Roger Moore.
Yes, she was.
And she was in a rather appalling film with Pierce Brosnan called Taffin. So she sort of started at the top and worked her way down.
Well, I think
21 years old in this film, though. She's so young.
I think that's extraordinary.
Yeah.
And she has so much presence, and she also, I think it would be really easy for her to do a really terrible Austrian accent. But I think she does actually a pretty good job.
Yeah.
She's from Dublin, right?
She is, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's impressive.
She does have a lot of presence here.
She's interesting. She's I have nothing against Elsa, and I like her, and I think she's a good character, but she's never brought up as people talk about Marion because she's awesome, and they talk about Willie because they hate her, and no one really gets to Elsa. No one really talks about Elsa that much, and I wonder why.
I think there's something about maybe how she's written. She's forgettable.
She doesn't get fully redeemed either, does she?
Yeah.
As a character.
Right. Yeah.
She doesn't. I mean, spoiler for Jerry who hasn't seen the rest of the movie, but she doesn't ride off into the sunset with Indy at the end.
That is true.
Whereas Willie and Marion both do.
It's
maybe we need an Elsa watch. Evaluate her.
I think we do need an Elsa watch, and I think again how they. Here's why she's not remembered is the way they set this up and their dynamic is ridiculous. and we see it right. I mean, we're about to see. This is one of my least favorite minutes, I think, in all. Well, I have to watch Crystal Skull, but it's certainly in this movie.
Good to be.
This is so far.
Yeah, this is one of my 26 is one of my least favorite minutes because I think it has one of the worst lines in this movie.
Yeah. Which is
Dr. Jones, I knew it was you. You have your father's eyes, and he says, and my mother's ears, but the rest belongs to you.
It's like the first take of that line as well.
Yeah,
it's like they've just gone, print, we're running out of time.
Yeah.
It is it's always been awkward that. I mean, I grew up watching this film probably more than I did any the other two, Temple of Doom and Raiders, but I find this one quite cringeworthy these days.
Yeah, that's
you know what though?
Yeah.
I think it's half a really good line. If he had stopped at "and my mother's ears," that's kind of like a cool, weird, slightly off-putting, cool guy sort of thing, almost James Bondy, kind of oh, and my mother's ears, oh, you're so cool that I don't fully understand why you're using your mom as a flirtation thing, but it works somehow, and it's a weird, cool, unexpected line. But then the rest belongs to you.
Penthouse Forum.
Yeah, dear Penthouse Forum. I tried to pick up this woman by telling her about my mom, and it totally failed. Why am I even writing to you? You're not going to print this.
I mean, the man's barely off the boat, and he's already flirting.
Yeah.
Well, look,
the doctor's a lady.
This is my whole problem with this, and it's one that's extends far beyond this minute. And you mentioned it. It could be this James Bond type line or vibe, and I'm not buying it. Indiana Jones isn't James Bond. I don't care if James Bond was some sort of influence originally, or he showed up at the beginning of Temple of Doom in his white tuxedo dinner jacket thing, where he's and the lines that they gave him in that with Lao Che were terrible.
Yeah.
It was a James Bond type scene, and they're terrible lines. Remember that one where he says like, he says, "Now give me the diamond," and he says like, "I'm sorry, can you say that again?" or something. You're like, this is horrible lines, and this is.
Am I going deaf? Or
yeah,
something?
yeah. It's like this dude.
Well, I have to go see my ear doctor.
He's
Did you
not.
develop a sense of humor? Yeah.
You know, yeah, that was it.
Yeah.
It's like he's not this James Bond smooth thing. And just in case we need like a recap, James Bond is a coiffed British spy.
Right.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Indiana Jones is a dusty, dirty American grave robber.
But I
Right.
think there's something going on here that I think it's possible because the Nazis were famous for using women to bait people. And I think it's very possible that they're using Elsa. They know that Indiana Jones is kind of the guy. He sees himself as this international playboy. And so they have Elsa playing up that part of him. Like, I think she's doing this on purpose because they're in the next minute.
But I like where you're going with that. That's actually really good, Pete, except Indiana Jones isn't known as an international playboy.
No, I'm saying he thinks that's what he sees himself that way.
Okay. I mean, but that's, again, James Bond is known as that.
No,
That's
right. I
fine.
agree.
Right.
I agree.
Yeah.
But I think they're playing on Indiana Jones's
Yeah.
basically his image of himself.
Look, I was introduced to the guy where he's just going, "Hello, Marion," and it's almost a little John Wayne-y.
Let's not forget though that Spielberg
Yeah.
wanted to make a Bond movie from the start. You know,
Right.
And
Yeah.
he injects a
Exactly.
bit more of that in Temple of Doom, and again, even more in this.
Right.
Yeah. And sometimes it works, and sometimes it's a little
Yeah.
off. Yeah.
And it just, when I see this line, all I can think of, spoilers, is like, later on, does she say, "You have your father's Jones"? It's you're like, I can't get that out of my head now.
Yeah.
And they gave that to me. It's not, I didn't make that up.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And why did that the fact that they shared the same woman seem perfectly acceptable when you were 12, but when you're 41, it now seems really creepy.
Yeah. It was kind of awesome back then,
Yeah.
wasn't it?
Because
Is this the only time? I know it's the first time, but it's almost the only time we hear any mention at all of Indy's mom, isn't it? Like, does he ever? I don't think he refers. Oh,
He says,
unless you count, "You sound like my mother."
Yeah.
In Raiders.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
kind of like vague.
And
But this is like he talks about my mother's ears.
they talk on the airship
And then he
about her,
mentions-
don't they?
Yeah.
She never understood your obsession. Yeah.
Right. I think those are the only two we've ever gotten.
Mm.
And the only two mentions of his mom. Still
And
doesn't
I
have a name.
wonder, in the line, does he really think he has his mother's ears, or is it just a slick line? Like he has his mother's ears,
Yeah.
like he has good hearing, and that's why he turns right around. like,
Or he's just trying to
she's
say something slick.
Yeah, I think it's,
Yeah.
I
She's
think
like
he's just trying
Dr.
to be
Jones.
slick. Yeah.
Yeah, he turns
Yeah.
right around immediately. Like
Yeah.
he's got his mother's. She was a good listener.
Yeah.
See, I think that's why I like the "and my mother's ears" line. I think it works either as a James Bondy thing or as an authentic Indy thing, because if Indy is smooth, it's almost sort of by accident. Like he's not trying that hard, and he just kind of says something that's kind of charming and weird.
But see,
but
we
then
know,
And that's kind of
we
what
know
this line
from
is like.
Temple of Doom that he was not smooth. Like when he's
Yeah.
making his play for Willie, and so I kind of like that here because
Yeah.
Elsa's leading him on, and he's not smooth. I mean, this is completely cringeworthy, and maybe it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
And even with Marion on the boat, when they're going to make out and stuff, he's like, he doesn't know what's going. He's like, okay.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
gonna kiss a girl. Okay, geez.
And then he falls asleep, which is charming. But
exactly, yeah.
here the rest belongs to you. It's like my gallbladder, I mean, my
disgusting. What?
my psoriasis.
Look, I just work with your dad. I don't need this. What's going on? Tap the brakes there, mister.
Maybe it kind of needed Brody in the background giving a little funny look, kind of like, what's he up? Because
Yeah,
they frame him
yeah.
out, like he even walks out of the frame, doesn't he? At this point.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, on that high note, anything else about minute 26?
That's all
That's
I got.
all I got. Jerry, I'm assuming that's all you got.
Cheers, done. No, I said it was fine.
Yeah.
Oh, no, wait a minute. Yes.
Oh,
This
hey.
just in
Oh, my
from
Lord.
Professor Christy Porter.
Didn't expect that.
Oh my goodness.
Hey, did you guys know that there's actually a band called Venice? and the guy also plays in a techno band called Top Men.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Wow.
Professor
That's
Christy
funny.
Porter, she did not make that up.
Oh, that's going on the playlist.
That's hysterical.
Yeah.
I did look up our Venice today because I thought, am I missing? Is there something else in this saying here that they keep saying? Venice.
Yeah, so
what's it referring back to? And
You know what it
why is
is?
it funny?
It is. This whole minute is set up to be,
Pussy.
It is. But I mean, that's what it is. Indy comes out. They're looking for his father. His father is missing, and that's not
Right.
what they're showing us.
Yeah.
They're showing us that Indiana Jones is just,
Yeah.
he's that easy. He's literally that
Bad
easy.
schmad.
Yeah.
Even though he said, I'm not that easy either.
Yeah, it's just I think that's why I don't like this minute.
Okay.
They're just he's like he's not even a cad.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They're trying hard for playful charm, and it's
Yeah.
it's not quite landing.
And you know what it is? I don't like Indiana Jones trying so hard.
Yeah. Yeah. You kind of want him.
Yeah.
You want any women to come to him and like be the not aggressors necessarily, but the the one steering the ship, and he's like, whoa, 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 whoa. Oh, I guess I get to kiss a girl.
I don't
All right.
think I've ever seen Indiana Jones try hard.
Right.
You know what I
the
mean?
hardest he tries is with Willie, I guess.
Yeah.
Even that's really awkward.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's
So
the same. Yeah.
it's for me it's a strange like writing director choice for the character. That's
Yeah.
what it is.
It'll get worse tomorrow. Don't worry.
Yeah. Well, what will not get worse and what is very easy and not at all cringeworthy are the amazing filmumentaries that our good buddy Jamie Binning makes. And Jamie, maybe you could talk a little bit about those.
I should say it's almost like I'm a former filmumentarian, but I haven't made one in a little while now. But they're feature-length documentaries that combine the film itself with all of the behind-the-scenes material that I can put together, whether it's taken from sources that already exist or done by myself. I did one for Raiders, one for the original Star Wars trilogy, and one for Jaws. I should have done one for Temple of Doom by now, and one for Last Crusade as well. But life kind of gets in the way.
Oh, it does.
Yeah, we know that feeling.
Absolutely.
Yep. But if I can't recommend these highly enough, and if you would like to find links to them, you can on our website you can look up Jamie, and we'll have links to the filmumentaries, and I'll put links to a couple of my favorites of those. And you can find other stuff on our website as well. You can find a very detailed walkthrough of Han Solo's Fever Dream, or a collection of our homemade Indiana Jones trading cards. So check it out. And then come back here tomorrow and check us out for minute 27 of Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade here on the Indiana Jones Minute.
Duty.
Venice.
Ears?
Duty.
It is such an awkward scene.